pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight Delta, SE off. Bring in, SE off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
Well, howdy there, Space Fam. Welcome to another episode of NASA Spaceflight Live. It's Sunday. It's time. Let's do this. All right, you can see I'm Jack Beyer. I'm the guy with the beard. And joining me today is, of course, Ian Atkinson. And I pointed the wrong way because I'm still not used to doing this.
I'm over here on this one.
Still did it wrong. Oh my God. Wait, it's that way? Oh God. Anyways, and I'm also joined with Adrian Beil. What's up, Adrian?
Hello, everyone. Also, I have not a beard, so sorry for that.
Yeah, this is
Me
like
neither.
some of the recent NSF live episodes. We've had like the beard team, and now we have it's kind of a mix. We're balancing things out.
Yeah.
But you know, Doss is a pro because he can point the right way at the right time. I'm just an amateur. Tisk tisk. Well, we've got an action-packed episode this week. We've got all kinds of fun stuff to talk about. So why don't we just jump right into it? But before we do, don't forget, this is an interactive thing. You can ask your questions. Type at NASASpaceflight in chat, ask away, and we'll see your questions in some nifty software that Michael wrote. Oh yeah, Michael's here in the background, pushing the buttons and pulling the levers. And you know, good pro tip: if you want your question answered or a higher chance of it being answered, ask a relevant question to what we're talking about at that moment. Anyways,
Bring up the chart.
yeah, the Venn diagram. Oh man, that was great. Anyways, so first up, we have James Webb Space Telescope had its first light, sent us a selfie. Oh my gosh, it worked. It worked. I'm still in a state of shock. Ian, tell us about the James Webb developments this week.
Yeah. So as you can see on your screen over this way, yeah, there it is right there. We got the first pictures back from the James Webb Space Telescope. Unsurprisingly, it might disappoint some people, but it's not a fancy picture of a far-off galaxy or a beautiful, crisp picture of some nebula far off. It's a picture of the telescope itself. And this picture was actually taken from an engineering camera with a special lens inside of the near-infrared camera instrument on Webb. And this is happening as Webb's mirrors are being adjusted. And that's actually pertinent here because, as you can see, you can't see anything specific in the mirrors here. It's just a very bright one singular mirror and some other mirrors with some little light artifacts in them. That's because the mirrors aren't perfectly aligned yet. There's little differences in them, and you need to make sure the mirrors are perfectly aligned to get one singular point of data. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting a picture like this right now. They're still in the process of aligning the mirrors, and they will be for the next few months. This is just a validation of some of the instruments inside of the near-infrared camera as they get the instrument up and running and get it validated, make sure everything's working correctly. But this is the first picture we got back from James Webb. And because everything is out of focus and it's just a quick test picture, the picture is just of the mirrors itself. And you can actually see on the bottom and on the top, the two sort of supporting poles that are holding the secondary mirror in place. So you get to see the entire mirror assembly here. And it's just so exciting to see even just a quick engineering picture from the telescope, just to show that, hey, it is working and we are working on it. And it's going great so far. But it's another reminder, too, of we are still several months away from seeing any sort of fancy deep sky nebula picture, any galaxy pictures, or any useful scientific pictures. But it's just a great step and honestly really exciting just to see a new space telescope working in some way.
Yep, it's
Yeah.
super exciting. And poor James Webb, it was like, test picture, please ignore. And we're all like, oh my gosh. And each of those mirrors, like you're saying, the alignment, right? In each of those mirrors has an actuator and a way to align. Like I forget exactly how precise they said, but it's an extremely precise thing. And
Yeah.
and sort of that's how we get one big mirror out of a bunch of little tiny mirrors. Is they're all able to very precisely align, and that's kind of one of those fun future-y things. It's like we couldn't have done that before, but we can now, and so big telescope.
Yeah. And the actuators are extremely precise. And because they're so precise, it takes a long time to move them any specific distance. So that's why we're not just like, okay, we launched, we're aligning the mirrors. The mirrors are aligned, let's go. It's going to take some time. And also, it's not just, okay, align mirror to position X. They need to align it to a position, say, is this position good? Does the star line up? Okay, no, let's move it this way then. It's a lot of trial and error. And you actually see here, this is what the instrument saw from a star. That is not one star. Those are 18 little stars because each mirror is just sending the light a slightly different direction. And again, that's totally normal. There's nothing weird about this. That's just a great indicator that the instrument's working. And over time, what they're going to do, they're going to align the mirrors so that all of those stars there are going to start to align into one singular dot in the middle. And once they get to that point, the mirrors are aligned. But as you can see now, they're all scattered all around. Again, nothing wrong with that, but it shows that the mirrors are not aligned yet.
It's this whole campaign is so cool to watch, because I remember when this whole James Webb launch campaign started, basically everyone was I would say nervous is a good word that totally understates what really was happening. And
Like
so far
panic
it's just-
attacks.
yeah, complete meltdown. But so far it's, knocks on wood that it will continue, but so far it's just going great. This whole launch went great, the deployment, and now getting the first images. I just love that this is going good. Like this might in the end actually work. And
Yeah.
to see this, it's inspiring, it's great, and I hope it continues that trend and that direction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure enough. I was too young to sort of remember Hubble and all of that, but of course that's what was on all of our minds when James Webb launched. Is, you know, Hubble was launched, and famously there was an issue with the mirror, and it had to be serviced in order for it to produce the sort of science images that were expected of it. And we all knew that James Webb was not going to be able to be serviced out at L2, at least not anytime soon. And we all sort of were sweating something, whether it was mirror or heat shield or otherwise, going wrong. And just like wave after wave of relief, seeing this instrument start to come online, and everything so far performing as expected. So, yay! Just a big resounding yay, I think, from us all in the entire science and spaceflight community.
Yep. Yeah, it's so exciting. And you actually see here on the picture that we're showing right now, it's all the mirror segments labeled. And there's diagrams online you can look up to see what does a C3 mirror mean? But each of those is showing which specific segment. And the wing ones are the wings of the telescope, the parts that actually extended out and around that were folded up for launch. Those are from those specific mirror segments. And it's really cool to see that. And they're all out of focus in their own little ways, but it's just going to be cool to see them all line up over time.
Yeah, hopefully we get some. Oh, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I hope we get some update images over time, and then we see like the image getting closer and closer to alignment. That would be cool to see, like every other week or so, that we can just get an update. Where are they right now? Like,
That'd be really cool.
How close are they to having this aligned?
It'd be cool if
they
they took that same image like every day or like twice a day, and then we combine them all into a time lapse, and you can just see the dots converge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even a GIF online where it shows just like a simulation of like 18 different dots slowly converging together into one dot. And that's going to be cool to see if we can get images like that down.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Well, I don't remember. So that is James Webb. Definitely super excited. Oh, right. They sort of snuck this image in on us, I feel like, because I feel like at all the press conferences and all of the info dumps that we got, it was like, well, don't expect to see anything soon. It's not going to image anything soon. It's going to take a little bit for the instruments to cool down and for everything to align. And obviously this isn't like a science image. It's not something that you can look at and gain any data from, but we still got an image, and I'm super excited about that. That and the the selfie primary mirror selfie, I guess. Super cool that we finally, we've already got something off of it. So
yeah,
cool.
I feel like so far they're really under promised what they will show, which is a good approach, I feel, in this thing, because once you get into the really setting expectations, these projects can of course always have some delays, and then people panic, and we don't really want to people panic with James Webb. So I feel like just being silent here, for these little things, and then just releasing them as you have them, is so far an approach that is working for them on social media, and I like the approach so far.
That's kind of, it makes perfect sense and sort of what you probably have to do for something this expensive and this news generating. Whenever something happens, there's going to be headlines, and for them to be very measured in their approach, it makes perfect sense, because if they released something without proper context, or if they said that they were going to do something and then there was a slight delay or an issue and it took them a couple days longer or what have you, then the media would just be like, oh my god, James Webb is broken or something. So the fact that they're under promising and over delivering is it makes sense from a PR standpoint. And they even did the same thing with how long the telescope service life would be. Once it got on station, it felt like they were like, okay, now we're good. And it's like, oh, cool. So that was definitely an under promise and an over deliver. I like that. All right. Let's see. We've got a Red Team member, Richard Phelps. Thank you for joining the Red Team. Our membership program is super important. And thank you to all of our members. Richard, you get chat emoji. I'm going to throw a star hopper in chat for you. So thank you for that, buddy. And Musical Wolves is asking, how big is James Webb Telescope's selfie stick? Like, I guess that would have to be the triangular support you were talking about there, on the secondary, because...
Yeah. I mean, the secondary mirror, that's like, I guess we're really asking, like, what's the focal length of James Webb? And the focal length basically means what's the length between the primary mirror and secondary mirror, where, like, it reflects light onto the secondary mirror. That I don't had to guess, I'd say maybe about 6-7 meters, just judging by the length of it, which would be about, like, I don't know, 27 feet. But yeah, the secondary mirror isn't really a selfie stick. This was more just a camera using a special lens inside one instrument that was able to look at everything very much out of focus. And by looking at everything out of focus, you see the mirror structure itself.
Very
rather
cool.
than it being, say, like a thing popping off the telescope to look back at it.
Let's see. Tony Jebson is asking, what do you think the first light science image will be? Did they already say what it was going to be?
I think it's probably somewhere online. They do actually have a schedule up of what the scheduled observations will be for at least the first campaign for James Webb. So that is publicly available. I don't know exactly what it is offhand.
And chat is saying the focal length of James Webb is 131.4 meters.
I was very wrong there. Wow.
Wow. That's quite far.
Interesting. That's actually really neat.
Let's see. Duarte Abrantes, I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering your name, says, when will James Webb be getting deep space images?
Again, that goes back to saying, like, we are still several months away. Their best estimate right now is about May or June of this year, approximately. But again, that depends on how exactly the instruments turn on, if there's any problems they run into, if they're like, we want to take a little bit of extra time to test out this instrument. It's a very fluid schedule, and as such, like we discussed before, they haven't posted a set in stone schedule. They haven't said, okay, June 24th, we're going to show the first picture. There's just nothing like that. It's just like when the telescope is ready, and they're guessing around May or June. That's their best estimate right now.
Cool. So maybe if they follow the under promise over deliver thing, we'll get something in April.
Jack, don't say that.
My God.
I love how now that they once made that way, we are just now expecting them to, like, okay, you're now faster than always. So it's April, I guess.
Let's see. Stephen, I don't know if we know the answer to this, but Stephen Porter is asking, do they have a backup plan if any of the actuators on the mirrors fail to line up? That's one of those things they were able to test on Earth quite extensively, unlike, the heat shield deploy.
Yeah, exactly. I've been able to test those a lot, and so far in space, that doesn't. At least we haven't heard about them running into any issues with them. I mean, in fact, there's, whereisweb.com or whereisweb.gov or whatever, where it's like it shows you exactly where the mirrors are in position right now. And so, like, looking at that, it doesn't really seem like they've run into an issue with it. If there were an issue, I would assume there's some sort of backup. I don't know this exactly. However, I do know that with 2 mirror segments, they did have issues on the ground. So they do have to use some sort of secondary system or secondary deploy mechanism. I'm not sure exactly what they need to do with those, but it seems like there are systems in place to be backups or, okay, plan B kind of thing.
Very cool. And Noble Steed in chat is saying they tested all actuators, all are working. So definitely don't have to. We're not sweating anything there. We're just sort of being protective of our baby. Um, Tony Jebson is asking us, what do we think are the most exciting science objectives? Exoplanet atmospheres? That's definitely way up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exoplanet atmosphere is gonna be really cool because James Webb's mirror is so big and it can collect so much light and so much data with that light that you can. There's a way I think it's called spectroscopy, where you put that light through basically a pyramid or some sort of crystal that splits it into a rainbow, and then you look at what colors are in that light, and through that light you can say, okay, the exoplanet or the star or the nebula that we caught this light from, it has hydrogen and carbon and a little bit of lithium and trace amounts of helium, things like that. You can pick out elements and compounds in there based on exactly what light is coming through, and that's really exciting to me too, because previously we've been able to actually kind of see that exoplanets can have atmospheres, and I'm not sure if we've actually seen what elements are in them, but being able to see that, we'll be able to. It'll be a lot. It'll be a lot better data in the search for life outside of Earth.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. What is like infrared spectroscopy, and you use a prism and you split the light into its spectrum and you analyze that. It's people much smarter than me. Thank goodness they exist.
Yeah, I could not do that.
It's just thinking about that math is making my skin itch. Jim Cavett, we'll get this last one on James Webb and we will move on here. Jim Cavett, thank you for the support there. They say, has James Webb had any problems with solar storms? Will it ever be a problem? And that is actually a relevant question for this topic and the next one. But before we get to that, I'm not quite sure. I guess L2 isn't, where James Webb isn't not like it's not shielded or anything. There's nothing it can really hide behind. It's not really significantly different than a low Earth orbit. Does anyone? I mean, I'm not quite sure. I assume they have shielded the relevant electronics, and it's hopefully not going to be an issue. But
yeah, I mean, because it's in L2, it's outside of the Earth's magnetic field, or at least outside of the vast majority of it, and because of that, it's kind of on its own. So yeah, they would have need to thought ahead and design the instruments and design the compute components to be able to withstand solar radiation. And I'm actually wondering, this is a bit of like speculation / rambling, but I'm wondering if the sun shield would actually play into that in any way.
Yep,
Like, would it help? Would it be completely useless against solar wind and solar storms?
I was kind of wondering the same thing. Ideally, that sun shield would have all those little individual, is it mylar or whatever each of the individual leaf of the sun shield is made out of, would be able to stop some of those more energetic particles. But cool, good question. Let's see. Any more on James Webb? Giant Rat is asking, why not use Webb to deep dive at our solar system before going deep space? Would Webb even be able to focus that close?
I think so, yeah. Like there are certain, so Webb can't look at like Mercury. Webb can't look at the sun. I don't even know if it can look at Venus really. Dog's barking. Yeah, so Webb is able to look at our solar system, and it can actually do both. It can look at deep space and look at our solar system, and it's going to be really useful with both. It's just that, yeah, it really could do either. It just depends on what scientists want and what is deemed as a higher priority at a certain point.
And that's kind of how it works with these things, right? Like on the Hubble and on other telescopes, you sort of submit a proposal and you say, I need this much time. I want to point at these things to do this science. Can I have the time? And you get a yay or an A. And if you get a yay, then you get to do your observations. So it's not like Webb will only be doing one thing at all times. There are different sets of things that they can use it for.
Basically, the time is the most precious thing about Webb. Like, how you allocate this very important time that it can serve, and how to maximize how to use this multi-billion-dollar project. Like, that's
Yep.
And the thing with with Webb, like last point here, but like it was the same thing with Hubble too. The things that Webb and Hubble are going to be looking at least the majority of things, are not very bright objects where you can be like, okay, I need 30 seconds of observing time and then I'm done. You'd be looking, especially with Webb, because Webb's goal, or one of its main goals, is to look far into the past of the universe. And with that, you're looking at very dim, very far off objects. You need probably hours, if not in some cases, maybe even days of observing time to get the goals of some science observations. So Webb's time is very limited, and the amount of observations it can do are very limited. So yeah, time is very critical on Webb.
Just as in life, the most important thing that we have is time. Okay, so moving on. Starlink satellites affected by geomagnetic storm. So we were just talking about that a little bit. Oh my gosh. I'm sort of shocked that this happened. Adrian, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I can take it. So we're talking about the Starlink Group 47 mission, which launched on February 3rd. And one day later, on February 4th, there was apparently a geomagnetic storm, my god, hard words, which warmed up the atmosphere, increased with that the atmospheric drag that Starlink had at deployment height, and basically almost the whole stack of Starlink satellites after that went into safe mode, couldn't escape safe mode anymore, and deorbited. 40 of 49 satellites are will or have already re-entered, so almost the whole stack is lost. Here's a statement by SpaceX that it's unfortunate because basically you almost lost a whole launch right there with your Starlink.
Yep.
But let's hope maybe we'll see 4-7.2 to make the Starlink naming scheme even better.
a dash and a decimal in one. I love it. But it's interesting that, or important to note that part of how these satellites are deployed is at a lower orbit. So if something like this does happen, they just re-enter practically immediately. It's not like they're whizzing around up in low Earth orbit for a while and then we'll eventually deorbit due to no. It's like this is how these are designed to be deployed, and it's really unfortunate, but at least they're not creating a whole bunch of debris and whatnot. And at least the launch itself was quite beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Or wait, am I thinking of CSG2? I think I'm thinking of CSG2.
That was CSG2, yeah. But yeah, it's good too. Like this, there is a silver lining to this, where it's like it shows that they're being responsible, and like that their plans of being responsible with low Earth orbit are holding water, because they've said for so long, we deploy Starlink satellites into a low Earth orbit, a very low orbit, to check them out, and if there's a problem, they'll deorbit. And this is the best proof that you can get of that being true, because you don't have 40 dead Starlinks orbiting 500 kilometers up that can risk the International Space Station or Hubble or things like that. These are just a very low orbit, and those clean themselves up over time, which I think is very responsible, and I really much applaud them for being responsible like that. And not, they could just as easily inject it into a 500 kilometer orbit. It'd be no problem to them. They could just easily do that. But like, they are taking the risk and taking the responsibility of keeping low Earth orbit as clean as they possibly can, and I honestly applaud that.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to do that. And when you hear of another satellite constellation that does not have a similar plan, it's like, well, what if you just chucked a whole bunch of dead satellites up there? That's not good. One thing I thought was really cool is that safe mode involved the satellites flying sort of edge on to the floor. Like normally they would have been, oriented in some sort of way, like but they actually went into like knife edge mode to minimize drag while they rode out the storm, and they were unable to be brought out of that knife edge mode, which that's a shame.
Basically, they tried to survive. Like they went to a mode where they said, okay, we need to survive this increase in drag and this increase in problematic conditions, and just try to hold on to the orbit they need to raise. But unfortunately, the conditions were not good.
We have all done that in Kerbal for sure. I mean, like, come on, just hang on a little more, just hang on a little more. With me, that's re-entering. I'm always like, please don't flip around, please don't flip around.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm awful at designing rockets. But there you can see the webcast there and the super cool views that we got. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that almost an entire Falcon 9 launch will be lost due to this, but it just shows the importance of space weather, and monitoring space weather. It's like if we didn't have Earth weather, weather and radar and all satellites and all that, we would get blindsided by storms. And it's the same thing in space. You can get blindsided by a storm like this, and it can cause real serious issues. Let's see. Musical Wolves is asking, will solar storms do the same if Starlink is in a lunar orbit? I think yes, right? Solar storm is a solar storm. If you get hit by it, you get hit by it. Unless you have... Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the problem here was that they were still so low in orbit. So if you already have them in orbit that is not that problematic or unstable, then you could always go into safe mode and then have way more time to fix this problem. But in this case, it was just, okay, you have this window in which these satellites have to race, and at some point, it's, yeah, you either go up or you go down, but you won't stay here. Yeah, basically, so I feel like if you're looking at, for example, lunar orbit, you always have the advantage that there you wouldn't have an atmosphere that you are close to re-entering. So that would maybe help you increase the time where you have to fix the problem.
Yeah, very good point. Here's a question from Steven that I think is, it makes sense. Couldn't SpaceX have been aware of the coming solar storm before launch? We get a few days notice typically. Does anybody know quite why we got blindsided by that one, or is it sort of just after they launched that solar eruption took place, or how did that all work out?
So apparently there was even a forecast that predicted that there would be high solar activity on that day, but to be fair, SpaceX so far never had this problem. So I guess in the end, it's you never learn, you never stop learning. This might be a case where they thought it would be fine, but in the end, it just wasn't. It just they underestimate maybe the effects of this, or and that's always, now they have the data. Now they know, okay, this maybe was too much. This maybe we should have approached this in a different way. Yeah, you never learn. You never know.
Very cool. Well, I think that is about it for Starlink. Squitter is asking if we've seen the videos of them re-entering. I did not know that was a thing, and I know what I'm doing after this is going to look at that, because it's, like they said, it's a sad incident, but the views of objects re-entering like that's gonna be cool to see. Sort of bittersweet.
Yeah, I always love to spot in general Starlink related visuals on the night sky, because it's one of the easiest way for me to see something that is related to rockets. So I always, when they first started launching Starlinks, I was like on these websites that track where the train is right now, and try to spot it in Europe and find these 60 satellite trains as well, because dots that move fast on the night sky are cool. That's just general statement. Fast moving dots, cool.
Mike Smith is pointing out in chat that the problem was due to atmospheric drag. So if going back to a previous question, would it be an issue around the moon? Maybe since there's no atmospheric drag around the moon, they would have had more time to get things saved. So that's a really good point. Let's see. Cool. Let's move on to the next thing that happened this week, because we've got a lot of Starship to cover.
Oh,
and we will get there, but before, we've got two more topics here, and the next one is Arianespace launches a OneWeb mission. Ian, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So Arianespace has launched another OneWeb mission. This is actually making up at this point, they now have launched about 66% of the OneWeb constellation, so 2/3, which is a major dent in it. This specific launch had 34 satellites on board. It was on a Soyuz STB rocket. It launched from the Kourou Space Center in French Guiana, which is actually interesting because usually with OneWeb, they launch from either Baikonur in Kazakhstan or Vostochny in eastern Russia. But occasionally they do launch from Kourou. But all OneWeb launches so far have been on board Soyuz rockets, been covered through Arianespace, and another successful launch of 34 satellites went up the other day. So very cool because it's, the competitor to SpaceX's Starlink. But there's actually a bit of a difference in their sort of mission goal here. With OneWeb, it'll be more of a commercial application rather than a single user household kind of thing. So OneWeb is sort of appealing to, say, the cruise ships and airliners of the world, rather than SpaceX appealing to everybody, specifically individual citizens of the world. And yeah, another successful launch and really good. OneWeb is still gearing up with their launches.
Very, very cool.
If somebody told me that the Soyuz launch would be perfectly successful, I would be like, oh no. Really? Anyway.
Wait, say Soyuz again?
Soyuz.
Okay, I thought you said Soyuz. I was like, is that how German people say Soyuz?
No, but there's another thing, like Arianespace / Arianespace is another, where
Yes.
like it's Arianespace, right?
Yes, I almost said it that way when starting the segment, but I was too unsure of myself to fully commit. But yeah, I think that's how Chris G says it is, Arianespace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just the official fancy way. Oh, my camera just died. But I think that's the official fancy way to say it. And I'm back. I think that's the official fancy way to say it. But as an English speaker, Arianespace clicks more in my mind.
Yep. Let's see. Paul Barina, thank you so much for becoming a launch director. We really appreciate all of our members. We could not do what we do without the membership program. And if you don't know what that is a way to support us directly with a little button down there in YouTube. And there's different levels of support. And at the different levels, you get different perks, starting with like preview videos and member photos and clips and stuff on the YouTube channel that go live before the daily videos do. You also get members emoji. I just threw a Tori Bruno and an Elon in chat. Fight me. You also get, at Capcom and above, you get Discord access. So you can pop in a Discord and joke around with us or learn things. Mostly joke around. Well, also learn things. But seriously, thank you, Paul Barina. That is one of our higher levels of membership there. And we cannot thank you and all of our members enough. In fact, as a launch director, you get your name at the end of the episode. Although I don't know if you'll be in this one because we have to update the graphic. But point being, that's one of the perks for those two higher levels of support there. Flight engineer and launch director. You get your name at the end of these episodes, which is kind of fun. Cool. So that was OneWeb. How about next we talk about Astra?
I love how we are going like good news, bad news, good news, bad news. Like it's well structured.
It's like a compliment sandwich when you're dealing with employees. Like, well, this was really good, but this was bad, but this was really good. It's like, yeah, you have to measure it out.
Yeah, so the Astra Elana 41 mission, as hopefully many of you saw here on the channel, suffered a failure during the ignition of the fairing deployment / the ignition of the second stage. So yeah, it didn't successfully reach orbit there, and yeah, sadly a failed mission after the last one, which was the first successful orbital mission. So yeah, here we can see it. So it's still, there's some great videos about this, but what appears to have happened is that the fairing didn't deploy at first when it should deploy, and you can basically see the second stage bumping into the fairing and then blowing the fairing open when the second stage ignites. So it appears to be that the fairing did not successfully open during the launch.
Yeah, that is very sad to see, especially like you said, coming off the recent success of LV0007 last year, and now having this issue. It was very unfortunate also because they had active payloads on board. There were 4 CubeSats on board for between like universities and also for NASA. And it seemed like at that point the launch was going great. Like it seemed like the first stage burn went well. It seemed honestly like the second stage ignited well too. It was just the fairing just didn't deploy. And having a fairing not deploy on a rocket is actually not incredibly uncommon. I mean, of course, it's not common to see that, but this isn't the first time we've ever seen it. I believe there was an issue on a Minotaur rocket, or actually twice on a Minotaur rocket, I think, where the fairing just didn't deploy, and because of that added mass, it wasn't able to reach orbit. And I think we've seen that on Pegasus too. But anyway, it's unfortunate to see, but. Yeah, it's unfortunate, especially after seeing the success of the previous mission. But also, alluding to the previous success, it doesn't seem like this might be a sort of fundamental vehicle issue, because we have seen fairings deploy before. In fact, I think twice before we've seen them deploy just fine. So it might just be a fluke. It might be a problem they've overlooked and just has gone the right way before. But again, we'll have to wait on official word from Astra as to what exactly went wrong. But unfortunate, and like we wish them the best in the quickest recovery.
Yep. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of Falcon 1, where they had that launch. I think it was the second one, where the first stage and the second stage contacted each other, and failed. Resulted in a failure. But it's the kind of failure where it's like, okay, this seems like a easy-ish thing to fix. So hopefully going forward, they're able to figure it out. And here you can see a tweet from Chris Kemp saying that they experienced an issue during the flight and they're sorry to their customers, and they'll provide more information once after they've reviewed the data. And Ian, I think you said it yourself, that there were active payloads on this launch. There were CubeSats from various universities, and I definitely want to underscore we're not as much fun as we can have on a show like this. Like, we definitely don't want to make light of what's happened, because imagine spending a bunch of time as a university student and building one of these CubeSats and it not getting into orbit. That's really unfortunate. There's Bama 1 from the University of Alabama at Tuscaloosa. There's Inca from New Mexico State University. There's CubeSat, which is from University of California in Berkeley. And then there was the R5S1 from NASA's Johnson Space Center. So it's unfortunate that those payloads didn't make it into orbit, but hopefully Astra can learn from this and move on and continue to progress down their path there. I mean, this would have been the first launch of theirs with customers and deployment of satellites. So hopefully the next one will go well, and we can go from there.
Yep. And yeah, it's like you said, like, yeah, there doesn't need to be the end, sort of, there's definitely a future. It's just something they have to work on. Like with SpaceX, with Falcon 1, like you said, they had 3 failures in a row when they first started off, all of just issues that they never anticipated, never could have guessed. I mean, even on the third flight, like you said, the residual thrust from the first stage engine that they would never have caught on the test stand because the stage shut down in a vacuum. Residual thrust caused them to recontact, and boom, you lost your second stage. It's like there's always going to be unknowns with things like this, and it's not surprising to see several failures in a row. I mean, even with Rocket Lab, they've had several failures. Even the flight number 20, after 19 launches of Electron, there was still an issue. There was an issue that popped up that they had to fix, one that they just evaded or one that they overlooked, and it's spaceflight. Like, yeah, it's so cliche to say space is hard, but in reality it is. And like, there's always going to be little problems that come up, and there's so many ways. There's only one way that things can go right, and there are countless ways that things can go wrong. And it's just about how you got to make sure that you look into everything, that you investigate everything, and test everything the best that you possibly can. And then even from there, things can pop up in flight.
Yeah, sure enough. I mean, the only way you learn is by doing, and you have to be able to suffer some mistakes. And I mean, it's the same thing with humans. You can't just immediately start riding a bike and expect to be really great at it, or whatever task. Playing an instrument, you're going to start off and you're going to get better at it over time, and you're going to learn things. In some ways too, it reminds me of the Firefly's first launch that sort of did not go great. It's one of those things where it's unfortunate, yes, but it seems like the kind of failure that should be easily correctable. And we'll obviously have to wait and hear more from Astra, but ideally this is the sort of thing where you pick up the pieces, you look at the data, and you move on and continue to launch payload. This isn't like an AMO 6 kind of thing where I remember when that happened and a Falcon 9 sort of detonated and roasted Slick 40. there was a while where we just didn't know what happened. That's where the famous like ULA sniper jokes and speculation always come from. Is because for a while we were just like, what was that failure mode? And it took a big long investigation, and they had to, sort everything out. And it's like, well, if you're gonna have a failure, at least have a relatively obvious, easily fixable failure versus extra super confounding one, if that makes any sense.
Yep. Yeah. And also, that's kind of the silver lining here too, is just like you find something that goes wrong, so that in the future okay, we need to look more closely when we're inspecting this subsystem, or we need to test this every time for this specific failure case. It shows you, and it's not the best way to find out. It's not a fun way to find out, but it shows you where you have gaps in your testing or gaps in your inspections. And like with Amos 6, if that never happened, the COPVs still could have been a sort of ticking time bomb, even when flying crew, which is just terrifying to think about. And like, it's kind of like a silver lining. Again, it's not a great way to find out, but it's still a silver lining that they found it and were able to fix it and realize, okay, we need to look more closely into that and keep an eye on that at all times.
Yep. And sort of similarly to again, Firefly, this was their first launch out of, what was it, Slick 46?
Yep.
This is their first launch out of Slick 46. It's not a pad they own. It's a customer, or they're a customer. They're basically renting the space from the Cape. And so if the launch had gone differently, it could have, in theory, damaged the pad, which would have been far worse than the sort of failure that we saw. And it's the same thing, Firefly was able to get their rocket off the pad and not roast the pad. And even though they had a failure, they still have all of their ground support infrastructure, and they still have the launch tower and all the necessary bits and bobs to conduct another launch versus, destroying it all with something like an Amos 6 style failure. So,
yep, exactly.
It was really cool to see on the pad, by the way, how they really did this whole run out of a container approach. Like, you could see in the stream how it was just the stand and then like a few containers and a bit of ground equipment around it, and like it kind of was really cool if you remember what their mission is and what they want to achieve with these launch pads. So it's cool to see that being used there. Like, here we can see it shot, like it's only this stand on the pad with like a few tanks and containers around it. It's cool.
Yeah, it's super cool, and it's just cool to see a different and like new launch site versus what we're all used to. And we've seen different views of Canaveral pads over and over and over, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's like 40, or okay, this is a different pad. And it's just neat to see activity at a new pad, and it portends that the fact that there are a large number of new space companies coming online, and that's definitely exciting to see. What a cool vehicle, and what a cool launch sequence with the water spraying out.
That camera's my favorite view right there.
That one, yeah. There's some really great views. I'm extremely floored by the fact that that at least that part of everything went well.
Yeah. And yeah, it's cool. Like you said, Adrian, like that launch pad, Slick 46, is really just like a launch area at this point. Like Astra just pulls up and sets up their launch pad. There's a concrete pad right here. Let's put it right here, kind of thing. And it's cool to see it because it's multi-purpose. And there's a new launch pad being finalized, LC-48, which is specifically dedicated to small sat launchers, or a multi-purpose launch pad. So that'd be neat to see if Astra moves to LC-48 when that's finished as well.
Definitely. Let's see. Musical Wolves is asking, what's up with the cruise ship scrubs? Is it scrubs? That's plural. I don't think there was more than one, thank goodness. Good
please
question.
No more.
Please no more. I don't think we've heard anything further on that. And Nick Trier, thank you for becoming a Red Team member. We hope you enjoy the perks, and thank you for the support. Let's see. Timothy Wood is asking, do customers just accept loss, or does Astra cover the cost of the satellites?
That kind of depends on payloads. Some payloads are insured because they are like, there is high value in them. But I feel like, especially with these university satellites, I doubt that there will be like, a dedicated insurance for these, since they are basically going with this NASA Ilana program, and basically they just get the spot. Like that's how this works. They get offered the spot. So I doubt there will be like a big insurance for that.
Maybe they'll just get offered space
yeah.
on a future rocket or mission for a follow-up thing. So like it's kind of like a, sorry you didn't make it on this one. Maybe we'll give you space on the next one or something like that. That would be cool.
Yeah. And this
basically,
usually
would you want to do it again? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, that's usually a common thing when there's a launch failure. Like, say after Almo 6, SpaceX gave whatever company had the Almos satellite, maybe it's Almos, but they gave them Almos 17's launch free. Because, hey, we lost your satellite, you paid for a launch and you didn't get a launch, we will give you a launch. It might not be the first launch because A, you don't have a satellite ready, and B, there's another manifest, so there's another satellite probably waiting. But it's not surprising. I think Rocket Lab even did that too after their failures. But I would definitely expect them to be like, hey, we'll put you on another launch when you have another satellite ready. But yeah, that's usually a common gesture.
Yep.
I mean, it also makes sense because with these other launch providers, there is a market there. Like there's other providers you could choose. So you want to make sure as a provider that you have a good reputation to the outside and make sure that your customers are happy. Because these rocket companies, these launch companies are always very they make sure that the customers are as happy as they can be, because happy customers have a good chance to come back. And it's not like there are 5 million payloads to launch every year. There's a very limited amount of payloads you're fighting for in this market, so make sure your customers like you.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that brings up sort of another question that we've been asked here. Nick is asking, is the demand for launch services sufficient for all of these launch providers, even if they do make it reliably to orbit? I mean, personally, I think that there would be enough demand for, several small sat launchers, but maybe not all of the ones that are trying to come on. Like, certainly not 20 small sat. Like, I mean, think about this might be a gross oversimplification, but think about package delivery, right? There's like DHL, FedEx, UPS, USPS, and that's kind of, I mean, I'm sure there's others that I'm not thinking of, but that's kind of like, those are the big four that the market can support. And so probably somewhere, I think, between 4 and 7, or I mean, completely guessing here, but somewhere in the 1 to 10 range, I think is sustainable. But it's a question of, do payloads materialize to fill a demand once that ability is there? Like, because right now there's X amount of payloads that would or could be launched, and you would hope, and I'm sure people all these small sat launchers would hope, that as the capacity comes online, they are able to chew through the current amount of demand, and then demand would grow. But we shall see. I think that famously took a little while for that sort of thing to happen with Falcon 9. I mean, now they're doing like the double GTO, like the ride share missions where it's like 2 satellites to GTO, and finding ways to utilize its capabilities, but it's taking a little bit.
Yeah, and yeah, like, go ahead, Adrian.
No, go. You're bad.
I was gonna say, like, the like you said, Jack. It's kind of concerning to me. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it's like, I'm curious of like how the small sat industry, both the demand and the supply, is going to evolve over the next 5 years, because it seems like, to be honest, it seems like everyone and their mother is making a small sat launch company these days.
Yep.
Everyone has their snazzy little new trick to try to get that. And I'm not saying any one method or another is bad. There's definitely a demand for everything. But it's just like, is there going to be enough CubeSat demands to keep up a launch rate of, say, like, as some companies are saying, like, oh, a launch every week? Is there really enough demand when you have another 18 small satellite launch companies who could do it for the same price? Maybe they have their own little secret sauce, like, oh, we'll get you to a very precise orbit, or we can get you cheaply with a bunch of other satellites, or you can
go to the exact orbit that you want versus going to
It'll be just you. Yeah. Everyone has like their own little secret sauce. I'm sure there's demand for everything, but is there enough demand?
It's a really good question.
Yeah. I always think about it. Oh, sorry, go.
No, I was just going to say, like, I don't know the answer to that. And it's going to be interesting to watch and see. But go ahead, Adrian.
Now, I always think about it as like into like basically a coordinate system, I guess, where you have like capabilities on one and like region on the other, and then you're thinking about, okay, you either need to have something that makes you special in like your capabilities, for example, with launching the satellite exactly where you need it, or maybe be exclusive in your region. That's another thing we are seeing right now, because there's not only an American small sat launch market, there's also a European one coming up. And I think these two markets can basically coexist, because you want I think there's some, at least political will, to have both regions to be independent to launch. So, and then you're really comparing like, okay, who has the better capabilities to serve the market right now, and their special region there, and but these factors both probably are influencing if you go ahead.
Yeah, it makes sense. I do think at some point down the line, whether that's in a year or 5 years or what have you, there will be a sort of a reckoning, and a lot of the aspirational small sat launchers will sort of be weeded out, and the ones who are actually have been able to launch payload, are launching payload, will be be the victors basically of such a reckoning. But you just it's impossible to look at 100 or 50 combatants, if you, for lack of a better word, and think, oh yeah, they'll all do fine. It's like, there's only so much to go around, but how much, that is definitely a point of contention. And hopefully some of these companies that are doing cool stuff succeed, and we can continue to see advancement of our ability to launch things into space. Sir Gawain, thank you for the support there. I'm having flashbacks to having had read Lancelot in high school. Let's see. I think that's what it was anyways. Sir Gawain and Lancelot, right? Anyways, maybe it was like King Arthur. Adrian's like, I have no idea.
Nope. Completely out of the picture, yeah.
Oh, man. Let's see. And then Dino CR is... Oh, go ahead, Ian.
I was just saying, I know King Arthur from Monty Python.
Okay, yeah, no, moving on. Dino CR says, what happens to the second stage now? Is it low enough that it will deorbit quickly? Do we know what the status of the second stage is?
Oh, for Astra?
Yes.
Yeah, that will be down in probably minutes after. It never really got into its directional burn for the orbital insertion, and since that never really happened, they probably turned it off fast, like after noticing it's not going the right direction. That will be down in minutes. It will be down by now. No way it's done in space.
Yes, if you know rockets, you know that the first stage kind of serves to get the second stage up high out of the atmosphere and hauling, and then once it separates, the second stage kind of does a lot of the actual work of getting into orbit in terms of going sideways very fast. So that second stage engine not being able to stay lit and it not being able to keep oriented, it means it's going to re-enter fairly rapidly, if not already. That's a good Jonathan McDowell question right there.
Love how with every question in the last few NSF lives that is remotely in the area of orbits, we are always pushing the Jonathan McDowell button at this point.
Yes. No, it's a large red button. It's right here, and I like to push it because I like learning things from someone who knows stuff. To put it lightly, he basically knows everything.
He does.
It's
No pressure
delightful.
on him.
Let's see. What else can we find here? Questions from y'all about Astra. L. Dewey MD is that like your doctor? Is it like L. Dewey doctor? L. Dewey MD is saying, regarding markets, spaceflight and rocketry is rapidly evolving as launch costs come down. This could stimulate the creation of more satellites that need to be launched. Yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about, right? Is does increased capability lead to increased demand? In theory, yes. In like a perfect system, yes, that is how it works. That is not necessarily how it works in reality, but that is what we are sort of all hoping, right?
Yep. And yeah, like the CubeSat market has blown up in the past 2 years. It's gotten And then that's why there's so many small sat launch companies, because either they're expecting that their secret sauce is going to attract a lot more customers, or they're expecting that there's going to be so much more demand over the next coming decade that there's going to be enough demand for several small sat launch companies. And again, maybe they're right. Honestly, we don't know. I'm not an economist. I've taken microeconomics and didn't like it. So I'm like, hey, I spend money and get a service. That's cool. That's it.
I am, but I won't touch this topic like in just in a short presentation here.
Cool. We'll just go with my mentality then, and I actively avoid anything with numbers and math as if it was fire. Let's see.
Cool.
Math bad. I mean, math good because we get to do rockets and stuff, but
Yeah.
for me, math bad just because I am bad at math.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks too. I'm going for a degree in aerospace engineering. I am currently taking Calculus 4.
Rip.
Big oof.
Large sized. Let's see. I think that is about it for Astra and the Elna 41 mission. I think it's Starship time.
You said the magic word.
Like I need like confetti or
Time?
something.
So how do we start?
That's a start right there.
Yeah, that's a full stack Starship. That is something that, having seen myself, is sort of hard to wrap your eyes around. I mean, I spent I don't know, maybe 30 minutes, maybe more, just standing at the launch site a couple days ago, just staring at this behemoth, because it's something that we've all been waiting for so long, and it's something that is really hard to put into words. I mean, if you'll allow me to just blather on for a minute, I mean, I've been at Slick 6. I've been really up close to a Delta Heavy. I've been at LC-39 at Kennedy, and I've seen a Falcon Heavy up close. I've seen big rockets. I saw a space shuttle launch when I was a kid from the Causeway, which is I think about 6 miles, something like that. Like, this vehicle is unlike any other vehicle that I can think of, and that's like a no-brainer statement. Yes, it's a Starship. It belly flops. It does things that no other vehicles do. It's made out of stainless steel, for crying out loud. But to be there, to see it in person, and to really just sort of wrap your head around the fact that no, this is a real thing. This isn't a render. This isn't sci-fi, a movie or a book or something. Like, this is a real thing that they're actually doing right now before our eyes. It's happening. Like, I just want to run around screaming it's happening. It fills me with a joy that I struggle to describe. But that I just wanted to get that out of the way. I mean, it's seeing the full stack in person. We don't know how long it's going to stay stacked, but definitely if you are able to try and get out there and take a look while it is how it is right now, because it's changing rapidly. Starbase has already changed so much, and now we have seen the first chopsticks lift, and it's happened. I mean, I remember saying on so many of these streams, man, it's gonna be crazy when they finally lift something with the chopsticks. And
It was.
and yeah, and indeed it was, and it was fast, and it was really cool. That was quite something. I mean, what was your reaction when you were watching this lift happen?
Yeah, it was the start of a very crazy week. How I like it feels at this point. The stacking feels even like ages ago, for example, right now. But yeah, it was way faster than I ever expected it to be. Like, I know when we went live, the first thing we basically discussed was, yeah, this might be a 6 to 8 hour stream. Spoiler, it wasn't. And yeah, they basically just lifted it up, made some checks, I guess, translated over with the chopsticks and put it down and connected to QD before. So that was fast, and I'm seeing this vehicle again fully stacked. Is I had SBL open all the time after that happened. Our 24/7 stream, and was just looking at the cameras and was just enjoying the views of this vehicle being fully stacked again. I can't stop looking at it because it looks so cool.
Yeah, and it's crazy how much different and how much cooler it looks without a large crane right next to the launch tower. The fact that they stacked it with the chopsticks this time compared to the last time when there was just a big honking multicolored Franken crane sitting off to the side, quite different, quite a different vibe. It was just astounding to see.
Yeah. That I just don't even know. Like in my head, I'm looking at it right now. I'm just like, oh, there's a Starship stacked. It's just not clicked in my head how just crazy this is. I'm just I don't know. When I was watching it, like I was helping with the lift stream, and I was sitting there. I'm just like, what am I looking at? Because like you're so used to seeing a Starship on the ground or a Starship being lifted just a little tiny bit up and over by a crane, but it's just being moved by this launch tower. There's no crane above it. It's being lifted from underneath the flaps by this thing, and it's being lifted onto a booster. And it's not like the fit check back in last August for the photo opportunity. This is like much more complete. These vehicles are much more complete. Like you can see the heat shield. The heat shield's more or less complete.
Yeah,
I mean,
back
the
in
booster.
August, the heat shield still had like lines on like the certain parts of the welds, or there was just not a complete heat shield. They got it as complete as they could before the lift,
Yeah.
but this is now complete.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
so crazy. And just looking at it, like I don't even know where it's just, but like the engines have been tested. The engines are actually mounted this time on both vehicles. The booster's been tested with cryogenic proofing. Will there be a static fire test? I don't know, but like I don't know. This
Yeah,
is just
there was one of the photos that Elon tweeted, because notably for this lift, due to its sort of new and more dangerous nature compared to a crane lift, SpaceX actually cleared the beach and the roadside there. So a lot of the views that we got last time we were not able to get because photographers were not allowed in the same positions. But one of the photos that Elon tweeted, thank goodness he tweeted a bunch, was you could see the underneath of the ship, and you could see that even the engine compartment was much more complete in terms of the center engines sort of had shrouding on them. The vacuum engines had sort of covers on them. It was significant. It looks significantly more complete as a vehicle. I think we might be getting, yeah, there you can see.
yeah.
Yeah.
It just looks. I think it's that bottom left view specifically. Like it just looks more complete and just like a actually functional vehicle. Which, although it looks that way, we'll have to see if they end up launching it.
I love how with the stream you could see how excited everyone on the team was for this, because usually we are like 3 people on these streams, and for the chopstick lift it was basically the introduction took like 2 minutes because there were 7 people that were like, no, I want to be on this.
There were like 7 of us, and I was when we first started off, I was just like, okay, so which 3 of us are going to be on? And then we hop on stream, I'm like, everyone's here. Everyone's talking, and it was so much. It was chaotic fun because
Yeah.
that was genuinely just so much fun, and just seeing at least a test ready vehicle, flight ready. I don't know, but those are real engines. They've been through real testing. We're not looking at just some mock-ups that were just bolted on for show. This is like there are supports on the vacuum engines, and like, oh, look at that too. Like that's. I don't know. That's just beautiful to look at.
Feels. It just gives you feels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like the angle too, and also like the dustiness of the camera makes it really feel like an engineering kind of vibe, you know?
Yeah.
Like where it's not just made for looks. Like this is just what it actually looks like. It's not like all fancied up. I don't know. It's the kind of vibe I get from it.
For sure.
We
Go
have
ahead.
enough. I mean, because I know we have so much Starship this week. We have more to talk about with Starship, right?
Yes, we do, absolutely. Although I do want to pick out a couple questions. Oh, but we have limited time. We have limited time here, and we should talk about the presentation, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, everybody here watching absolutely has to know. We had a Starship update. We finally got one after what, 2 years, something like that.
2.5 almost. So,
What was y'all's reaction? And then I'll give you mine.
you want to start?
Yeah, to the update. So It was fun. It was enjoyable. I liked the Raptor 2 footage. I think Raptor 2 was honestly the main focal point of the whole event.
That's certainly where we learned the most, I think.
Yeah, the picture, honestly, that one picture with Raptor 1 next to Raptor 2 showing whatever they managed to do to that. Like those engineers, I don't know what they're smoking, but like, wow, that was amazing what they've done. And this is just like what, after 3-4 years of Raptor development? Like, where are they going to be in another 5 years? What's the HLS Raptors going to look like? Like, it's I don't know. It's just amazing what they've done with Raptor 2. And I mean, I'm talking about Raptor 2 a lot because I love rocket engines. That's what I want to go into as a career working with them. And it's just amazing what they've been able to do with such a complex engine that's designed for reusability, for maximum thrust, for efficiency too. And it's such a multi-purpose thing. They've done amazing things with Raptor, and it's so cool to see that. And the test footage too from the test cell, that was awesome.
Yeah, the test cell footage was really, really cool. Adrian,
Yeah.
what was your take?
Yeah, so this might be repeat for some people here because I commented here live, which was amazing, by the way. Yeah, I feel like the first part of the presentation was not directed at enthusiasts who watch 24/7 streams of this vehicle.
No.
Because that's like, at first I was like, okay, I know this, but then I remembered, yeah, but many people don't, because many people do not watch Starbase 24/7. They do not watch every Elon reply on Twitter. So it makes sense to remind everybody again what this thing needs to achieve and what they want to achieve with it. Because it's not, they invited classic media to this. They not only invited like rocket journalists to this. It was focused as, it was framed for general audience.
Yes.
So the whole introduction made sense. And I loved how they transitioned, Elon transitioned from having this very broad view at first to then in the question and answer area, answering very specific questions. Some not maybe as specific as we would want, but there were questions where like, okay, I learned a lot here, and I learned something that I really didn't know before. So it was a good transition, I feel like, between this wider angle and then the more focused Q&A. So that's my take on it, and overall I liked it.
Yeah, I think that is basically my thoughts, fairly exactly. And I see here from Nick Trier, Nick is saying presentation was too much inspiration and not enough hard info, far too little time for Q&A. Mike Smith says he didn't really say much for an update. Like, I get it. I trust me, I want more details and nitty-gritty information too. But like you said, Adrian, this was an event for the mainstream media and the general public who does not follow this stuff super duper extra closely. And I mean, like the Washington Post was there. I think like CNBC was there. Like, mainstream media, not a NASA Spaceflight 24/7 live stream or a NASA Spaceflight stream where we get down into the really nitty-gritty details. That said, that Q&A, like you said, Adrian, was really good, and we did learn some very interesting stuff, particularly about Raptor 2 and how they had eliminated flanges and gone with welds in a lot more places. I thought that was really interesting. I think that was from one of the questions from like the Reddit community or something like that. That was really cool, that we got some more color there on Raptor 2. Trust me, I would love to have gotten way more details, but the fact of the matter is that now, I mean, we get a lot of the stuff that we learn from Elon just typing something up on Twitter. And it's like, oh, okay, they might stretch the ship. They might add 3 additional engines to the ship. Like, those are the kind of things where we're like, oh my gosh. And that's like kind of mind-blowing. And yes, we would have loved some of that stuff in the presentation, but at the same time, we don't
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
We have some breaking news. If you have not been following Starbase Live this morning or Twitter or anything, huge development at the orbital tank farm, and that is that they have been delivering methane. This is the first time that we've seen methane delivered to the orbital tank farm, and in fact, this is a live view right now of a fourth methane tanker.
There it is. I feel like, or we should be coming soon.
Yeah,
Wait.
That's wow.
Yeah.
And I believe that they're filling those horizontal tanks, the large liquid methane horizontal tanks that you can see on the left side of the frame here. But that is a big milestone. That is a very,
Yeah.
very big milestone in the grand scheme of things. Mary was able to catch that happening in real time, and it's yet another step to progressing towards static firing a booster. Notice I say a booster, and and getting this system, further online. I can't help but feel like this timing is not coincidental, and I'm super curious as to what their plan is with this methane. I mean, it could just be a matter of test the tanks, test the plumbing, test the pumps. You need a little bit of methane in there to do that. I mean, I think they've been doing that with liquid nitrogen already, but it probably helps to use the actual material that they're going to be using. But yeah, methane being delivered to the orbital tank farm. I will note, if it's not clear, it appears to be going to those horizontal tanks. The large vertical Starship derived methane tanks that are in those cryo shells in the orbital tank farm, do not think methane is going into those at this time, but that is sort of neither here nor there. That's cool. Super cool to see methane be delivered. We actually have a question here. Where did it go? Yeah, right here from David saying, do you think the methane fueling for the horizontal or vertical tanks is for the horizontal or vertical tanks? There were rumors of issues with the vertical ones. Indeed, there were rumors of issues with the vertical ones, and indeed, this does appear that they are going to the horizontal ones. Right, guys?
Yeah, I'd say so. And it seems like, too, like the horizontal tanks, maybe they've been the plan all along, but it seems like those were sort of an afterthought or sort of a Band-Aid fix if they've been having problems with the vertical tanks. And also, like you said, it's interesting, we haven't seen any deliveries to the vertical tanks in terms of methane. We have seen liquid oxygen and I think liquid nitrogen deliveries too, but no methane deliveries, which I think that's where the rumors popped up, where it's just like they might have problems with them. And the horizontal tanks notably are almost enough. It's like 98% of a full vehicle's worth of methane in those tanks. That's not accounting for boil off, and that's not accounting for the inevitable little bit that will still be left in the tanks that you just can't pump out.
When you say a full vehicle, do you mean booster and ship, or just booster?
Yep, it's a full stack. Enough methane for 98% of a full stack if you manage to have 100% efficiency on getting everything out of those horizontal tanks. Could that be enough to support one flight? Would SpaceX be happy to use to support one flight like that? Maybe. That's totally possible. But we're going to have to wait and see, I guess, as to what they choose to do.
Sure enough. That's a big milestone. Just like the chopsticks lift, or just like having a full stack. This is sort of a less but nonetheless extremely important milestone, and it's super cool that it happened to happen today. Basically during and just before NASASpaceflight Live. So don't forget,
great timing there, SpaceX.
If you guys want to keep track of that sort of thing, if you want that level of detail that you did not get out of the presentation, maybe go hang out in Starbase Live, and you'll probably learn a lot. You'll probably see some cool stuff. But yeah, presentation-wise, thought it was cool. Thought that we did not get a bunch of wow new info for the most part, but again, that presentation wasn't for folks like us. But I will say, having seen Elon at various press conferences, I was at the Dear Moon press conference, I was at the last Starship update, I was at a Boring Company press conference. Like, having seen him speak at press events, this was, I think, the most on that I've ever seen Elon. Like, he seemed comfortable, he seemed happy, he seemed rehearsed even. He knew what he wanted to say, he said it very eloquently, he rebutted the arguments of like, oh, why don't we devote resources completely to fixing problems on Earth and stuff like he checked all the boxes that you would want him to check for an explainer for the general public. It's like, well, yes, we should spend most of our time on problems on Earth, but also at the same time we can do this other thing. It really, that I liked a lot, because we need someone with sort of a Steve Jobs flair to pitch this. To pitch Mars and to pitch Starship to the general public, because otherwise it's not going to happen. If it's just people like us that care, it needs to be spread to a wider audience. So the presentation definitely served to do that, and And yeah, like I said, we got some good info from the Q&A. This render, wow, that absolutely gave me feels. I think that was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole presentation, is seeing this render and sort of imagining like, okay, no, this is a relatively close facsimile to what the real thing will look like. And oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
it's
We kind of made fun in the post stream about this because still in this picture of a rocket,
no flame diverter,
no flame diverter,
no deluge.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
don't care. Just launch it. I mean, what
send
could
it.
happen?
Yeah.
I really wish I was like, maybe we should talk next time we have Maston on, or because Matt the other week from Maston was really informative on rocket impingement on soil and whatnot, and how quickly you can dig out a trench and stuff. And it's like, okay, so if the Raptors are that high up off the mount, and is that enough space? Is that enough space so that you just don't need a flame diverter? Question mark. Or
Yeah.
I wish I was better at the maths, as they call it. But yeah, here you can see the booster coming back. I mean, what a sight! I cannot wait until this happens in real life.
And no entry burn too, notably, which has been the case for a while, but still neat to see. It's just going to plow right through.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's part of the benefit you get from stainless steel, right?
Yep.
And what was that? Was that a 2-engine or a 3-engine burn there for landing? I didn't quite
engine.
catch. Okay, yeah.
And that actually lines up with the render or the physics simulation that Elon tweeted about of a booster landing. It was a 9-engine, I guess, 9-engine initial landing burn, then down select to the center 3 engines for final landing. However, that's with a 29-engine booster, so that's, I guess, what booster 4 would do when it flies. And talk about the flame trench too. It's going to be neat to see what happens after the first static fire. Again, be it with booster 4, booster 7, whatever. How's the pad going to hold up? Is there going to be a trench under there? Are they just going to pour so much water on there that there's no way the flames get to the ground? That's what I'm wondering. And again, they have that huge water tank there. They took one of the cryo shells and they're just going to fill it up with water. So they have a lot of water there. Are they just going to dump it all at once, or what's going to happen?
Yeah, really good question. Really, really good question there. Let's see. Speaking of good questions, y'all have a lot right now as we watch this render continue to play. Steven is asking, are there any Raptor 2 engines at Starbase? Well, there's at least one, right?
That was in the presentation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And
that arrived very secretly. Mary didn't see that. Nick didn't see that, which was neat.
And there you can see the engines right there. Yeah, I mean there has to be more than the one, right? And it's just a matter of how many do they have. What was the serial number on this one? Number 5. So
Jack, as you can see, they have at least 5 engines.
Yeah, there you go. So presumably, yes, that is a good question, Stephen. There are Raptor 2s at Starbase.
I want to add or had 5 engines. just to be sure here.
You're saying because some of them could have sort of gone pop on the test stand sort of thing?
There's an absolute maximum of 5.
Yeah, I mean, we have... Also, I would add to this that if with the SpaceX numbering, there's always the possibility of having like 5.2 as an engine.
Stop. No, I will figure out a way to mute your mic somehow, and I will do it.
If we see like our 5.2 show up, I am just going to leave. I don't know what I'm going to leave, but I'm just going to leave something.
I guess in the SpaceX video, 10 was on the stand at McGregor.
Yeah,
so we have at least 10.
And I believe Gary Blair, our resident McGregor photographer, plane flyer, I don't even know what to call him. Gary caught 10 on the stand as well. So there's at least serial number 10 have been tested up to 10. So that's definitely good to mention there. Let's see. Richard Phipps is asking, do you think B4 and S20 will be the first Starship to orbit? And thank y'all, team, for the great coverage of Starbase you provide. I'm going to say no.
I am also saying no.
I will also say no.
So why are we so sure that 4 and 20 will not fly to orbit? Because I know people are wondering, why are they so positive? They're delivering methane. There's a full stack. They're ready to go as soon as the FAA says go at the end of February. But one, we don't know that the FAA is going to say go at the end of February. They could say, well, we need more time. 2, that methane could be to support maybe static firing, maybe. but I feel like it's mostly just to start filling up the tanks because it's going to take a lot of tanker trucks to fill up those tanks.
Yep.
But is there anything you can point to that makes you so sure that 4 and 20 are sort of not the A team anymore?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this works, but if you look at the high bay right now, there's one big reason why I think they won't fly, and that's the fact that there's a booster which supports Raptor 2s, which supports a new maximum number of engines, which basically is a big design change, and that one is getting built right now. Yeah, and it's getting closer and closer and closer. So at some point, you might make a call where you say, okay, we have a booster here that can show us new technology, that can demonstrate updates we already introduced to the vehicle. So that's just my feeling, that at some point, if you have a B7 ready, or have like ship 24, 25, whatever, ready, you might be at the point where you're like, okay, we have these resources now for the first orbital test. Let's test it, but let's test it with the hardware we know is the current state of the art of the Starship program.
Yeah, this whole test campaign has taken so long. Building the orbital launch mount in stage 0 has taken so long. The FAA delay has added additional time to where this vehicle, 4 and 20, are sort of functionally obsolete at this point. I mean, that's not to say there's not any data that can be gained from them. It's just a matter of they have newer designs at this point. I mean, I don't know how much weight should be put on it, but they did paint Booster 4's nozzles on those Raptors, which I don't think, I mean, it could have been maybe some kind of fancy ablative paint, but I don't know. I think it was like a prettification sort of thing. But so that's the thing. It's just, it's hard to point to any one thing that is sort of a definitive proof that they're not going to fly. And maybe they will. Plans change constantly in Starbase, but yeah, right now, not expecting 4 and 20 to fly to orbit. Although that would certainly be cool. I think there's also been some rumors of Raptor 1.5 sort of not being up to snuff for an orbital launch or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. I'm not quite sure what the detail is there, but yeah, that's what we're thinking.
Just to point it out, it doesn't mean that we are like, we don't want to be Debbie Downers here and just say, okay, that won't work. It's always just our opinion that we have right now based on what we see.
Yep.
That doesn't mean it is completely out of the picture and impossible that maybe in 2 months SpaceX is getting ready for flying 420 and you can click this and be like, hey, these NASASpaceflight dudes, they were wrong.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Ship 20 does a hypersonic flight. Maybe Booster 4 does a bunch of fueling tests and tests stage 0. Those both seem plausible to me, although the hypersonic flight of Ship 20 seems unlikely. But I can dream. Let me dream.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like we've seen them build stuff and throw it to the side before. I mean, if you remember, Booster 3 was supposed to fly the orbital flight test.
Yep.
Booster 3 was supposed to fly this, and if things went the way that they originally planned to, we'd be looking at Booster 3 and Ship 20 on the pad right here. But there were some upgrades made to Booster 4 from the learnings of Booster 3. And even if you go back even further, Booster 1, BN1, was supposed to go to the pad and do some cryogenic testing, even do some static fires. But they made some upgrades to Booster 3 because there were some problems with Booster 1 or whatever. And even if you look at the ships, they built and completely finished Ship 16. Like, it was ready to roll out to the pad, but they decided, no, let's just skip ahead to something that's better, that we'll get more data from, which is Ship 20 and Booster 4 here. And I think that given that, first off, the methane tanks at the site can't support a full launch, a full vehicle tank load, that based and combined with the FAA certification now being pushed out to March at some point, I think it wouldn't surprise me to see Booster 7 and maybe Ship 22 fly, because Ship 22 is making extremely fast progress now. It seems like it's being fast-tracked. And like Elon did say in the presentation, there's been some issues with Raptor 2 with the combustion chamber melting, but that's only when they pushed it to the extreme limits and fired it for minutes at a time. And yeah, maybe that could be a reason that Booster 7 won't fly.
I think another data point is at the presentation, I don't think there was any point at which Elon said this is going to orbit, right?
Yeah,
like
true.
he and I feel like if that was sort of the plan still, he would have touted that and would have.
Yeah.
And I even expected him. I said this to some people. I was like, I kind of expect him to double down on 4 and 20 flying.
Really?
And yet, just because why do a presentation in front of in front of something that's not going to fly? It's like you want that added weight of the fact that like this thing is the one that's going to go to orbit first, but he didn't do that, and I think that's notable. I really do. I think that's something we can point to and say, interesting.
Just for the funny, because we made the same thing in the pre-show. We sat here and was like, and he will probably announce which ship and booster combination currently is orbital, and he didn't. Like, that was one of the predictions we had, and he was like, no. That was in general very funny. He kind of ignored that there's a full stack Starship behind him. Like, for the fact that it was standing there, it was mentioned basically never.
It was pretty low key.
Yeah, it's just like, it's the elephant in the room. Let's not.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
This year.
Kind of like a humble flex. But yeah, that was a really cool presentation. I'm glad it happened. I do wish we got more information, but at the same time, if we want a long, extended, maybe like, I don't know, somewhere around an hour and a half Q&A where there's a lot of really in-depth questions asked, maybe what we really need is something like Elon on NASASpaceflight Live someday in the future.
I voted. I vote for it.
At some point.
Yeah.
How cool would
be
that
fun.
be? I think
it'd be a little neat. I mean, like, kind of boring, but
that is, I think, where we're going to get the sort of information that we're all craving. That would be something to look forward to for sure. So maybe someday in the future we can make that happen, but who knows? We'll see. It seems like it's relatively hard to take some of his time because he's a busy guy. But how cool would that be?
Yes, a company or two.
I would almost feel bad. I would be like, okay, right off the bat, we're sorry. We're sorry for taking an hour and a half of your extremely valuable time to goof around and ask you questions that are, trivial to you at this point. But okay, and then that out of the way, let's go. Let's do this. How cool would that be? Let's see. Musical Wolves, thank you for the support. They say, when full stack plushie? I think we should do a full stack plushie. That would be awesome. Also, Musical
Mark.
Wolves. Yeah, somebody at Mark. Musical Wolves says, how many shuttles fit in a Starship? I think less than one, because shuttle had wings.
Starship's about the size of the shuttle's external fuel tank, so yeah, definitely less than one. You can fit probably the crew cabin inside of it, but that's it.
Nice. Musical Wolves is on fire today. Musical Wolves also asking, do you think the lift took longer because they needed to document the whole process and future stacks won't take as long? Yes. Short answer, yes. But thank you for Musical Wolves. Holy cow. On that same kind of line about the lift, Paul Kelly is saying, who had money down on first lift at night? I certainly didn't.
Nope.
I was there and waiting for the lift to happen so I could photograph it and whatnot. And I said repeatedly to multiple people, I might have even said it on stream, like, nah, not gonna lift. Not gonna lift at night.
Yeah.
Why would they do this crazy complex lift at night of all times? And sure enough, they did.
Yeah. And when the stream was starting, and I was joining out, I was just like, I'll help out with the first hour when they do maybe lift it off the ground a few centimeters and put it back down. And I started going up. I'm like, okay, it's going up a little bit. Oh, it's still going. Oh, it's still going. Oh,
it's going. It's hauling. Oh my gosh, it's there.
Yeah, it was going fast.
Matt Olson says, what blew my mind was how stable the ship was. It wasn't moving like a normal crane lifts. Yeah, that's a really good point. The way that they have the sort of the 4-point connections.
Stable is it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was just going
cool.
straight up. It was like a render.
And just about the whole thing with the night lift, I remember being very confident that I could sleep, but I had people queued that would wake me up if something happens. At some point I got a call from somebody and he was like, yeah, they connected the stabilizers, and I was like, what do you mean? It's 4 a.m. here. They can't do that right now.
Holy cow, Jerwa
Yeah.
with a super huge super chat. Thank you, Jerwa, for the
Wow.
support there. That is,
Thank
you.
I have no words. I'm glad you think what this is great work. Seriously, thank you. It helps us do what we do to an immense degree, and you're one of those folks that is constantly popping in with support like that. So thank you so much, Jerwa.
Yeah.
Man, there's just so much that happened in Starbase. Like Alpha Jets flew around like 3 or 4 times with Jared Isaacman and crew, and I think even John Krause at one point.
Yeah.
You know, we had just so many cool views of the full stack from all various photographers, from Mary, from Nick, from, dare I say, myself, if I can toot my own horn. It was just a really cool thing to photograph. But I mean, we're getting to the end here. I want to run through some more of these super chats because we really do appreciate the support. Storm Silva Walker, thank you for the support. Baby Yoda, thank you for the support. Jim Cavett says, "Hi y'all, wolves are sleeping." I don't know what that means, but thank you for the support. I feel like we just got used as a verbal dead drop or something. The wolf are sleeping. Squirrel and rabbit must move in. It's like, and then... Go ahead.
Imagine that smart strategy, like just doing it in a super chat and nobody would ever know.
Yeah, it turns out our super chats are a one-time pad. Westy the Third, thank you for the support. They say, after all the amazing stuff this week, what was the best for you all? Thanks as always, and managed to catch up on. Hope you managed to catch up on sleep. For me, the coolest thing was seeing it with my own eyes. But I was lucky enough.
What a flex!
Lucky enough to be there. I feel very, very, very appreciative at the opportunity to be there in person. I know not everybody can, and I hope I made good use of my time and helped everybody sort of experience the event along with the people that were there. Ian, what was your favorite? What was the best thing of the week for you?
Okay, that's a big question there. Probably somewhere between the Lift and the new Raptor 2 news.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably the Lift would probably triumph that, because the Lift stream, I keep going back to the Lift stream. The Lift stream was so much fun.
That was fun.
That was like just the most chill, just like we're here to just celebrate and have it. It was like a party, really.
Yep.
It didn't feel like we were just like, hello and welcome to NASASpaceflight. We are bringing you the Lift live stream. It's like we were just chilling, just like, this is so cool.
Yeah, I think the late night vibe helped that a little bit. Plus, also we were just celebrating. We were all very happy to see a big milestone achieved.
Yeah.
Adrian, what about you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, live stream. I double down on the live stream here. Rarely we have the opportunity to hang out with so many commentators at once and like so many people that cover Starship at once. So like all alone the fact that we all get to like hang out virtually and just celebrate for 2 or 3 hours. That so much fun. I love these moments, and I enjoyed commentating on that one. So,
yeah, the lift stream and seeing a full stack, I think, is undeniably the highlight of the week. Speaking of the full stack, we've got full stack merchandise. If you want to wear a shirt, that's how you get one. Go to our shop and buy a full stack shirt. I love the sun design behind the ship, and I like that we're able to do these sort of one-off, fun like event shirts. Like we had the one for the original stack, the I Was There shirt, and now we've got the full stack shirt. I'm super into it. So if you want to support us in a different way other than the member program or the super chats or just hitting the like button, thank you folks that hit the like button. Grab some merch there. So thank
also
you.
An amazing hoodie.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm a hoodie guy. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
But seriously, let's see really quickly. Oh, there you go. There's the hoodie.
Hoodies. I love hoodies. I'm wearing one now.
Wearing an NSF shirt right now, but usually I wear hoodies.
Let's see. CD Knight, Cape Town. Thank you for the support. They say if Starbase was R&D and they launched from the Cape, would that be bad for Cameron County space tourism? Do you think Elon's comments will sway the FAA? I do question to what extent those comments were 100% the case and how much of that is like a bluff. But even if Starbase ends up just as R&D, I think there'll be plenty of R&D to be done on the program. What with a lunar variant that needs to be designed and built, what with the tanker variant that needs to be designed and built, what with crewed version that needs to be designed. Like there's a Mars version, like there's all sorts of things that Starbase could be used for, even if they end up launching the majority of their stuff out of the Cape. But good question there. I'm trying to run through these really quickly because I know we're running late here. but that does not mean we do not appreciate it. I'm just trying to get through them because y'all been real supportive today. So, Airvale, thank you for the support. They say estimate how many tankers it would take for a full 29 Raptor static fire. I don't know how many it would take to static fire. I think it takes a large number to fill up the tank farm, though, right? Like something like I saw someone say 100. I don't know if it's actually 100.
About 100 for the launch, I feel like. Like,
okay.
If you really want to get this thing full, if I recall correctly.
So for a static fire, somewhere between 0 and 100.
Thanks.
I mean, yeah, like with how many tanks would you need? Would it be consumed by a static fire? I mean, they just fill it up just like a puddle of methane in there for the static fire. You do not need a full tank load. So honestly, probably literally 1 or 2 tankers.
Maybe like 10.
Yeah, so 10 overall maybe. But again, there's a lot of ifs there.
Astro Knucklehead, thank you for the support. Asking about whether Tim Dodd has been selected for New Moon. Ask Tim Dodd. I have no idea. But I did get to see Tim. That was another highlight for me. I got to see Tim. Good guy. I mean, always like hanging out with Tim. So that was a treat. Ron Smith, thank you for the support. First question to Elon if he's on NSF Live. What are the 4 towers? No, I forbid it. I forbid it. Master Eunice, thank you for the support. They say, always wonder whether you guys believe in the whole colonized Mars thing. I don't, or mostly just love rockets. I do. Thanks for the good work. No, I think humans need to become multiplanetary. I have backups of my hard drives. Why not have a backup of humanity? That just makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a shirt.
And part of human nature is exploration, and I do think exploration is an important thing for us to do as a species, to learn and to grow, and yeah, going to Mars is part of that.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. And like, I mean, yeah, with exploration, one of the things on my bucket list, I want to walk on the moon. I'm being totally serious. I want to walk on the moon. Yep. Will that ever happen? Probably not.
Well,
going to space would definitely be still good though.
You have the benefit of being young-ish, at least younger than me. So for you, the probability is higher. So relish that. I hope I live long enough to do something that cool, and I hope by the time I can do something that cool, I'm not just old and decrepit and like meh.
Yeah.
Tim, thank you for the support. Go ahead, please.
I love always when Elon said that it's important for people to dream, because that like something that makes you want to stand up every morning. And I feel like that's also part of this, like being inspired by this whole program and being inspired by everything in space. Not just this, but also like everything amazing that is happening in space. Yeah, that's a cool thing, and I love it every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's like getting into like mental health stuff and like fighting depression and that sort of thing. But like if you wake up every day and you don't have something to look forward to, it's harder to be happy with your existence. And when you have something that you can look forward to, a concrete thing that you can be like, yes, this is happening, that's meaningful. And me even just saying that's meaningful is like, it does not truly convey, but it's so important. It's so important to have something to wake up to every morning and look forward to. And it's not like I'm thinking people are literally getting out of bed and setting foot on the ground and thinking, yeah, Starship. But it's close. It's really close. Yeah. At least for some of us. Let's see. Paul, thank you for the support. Astro Knucklehead, thank you for the support. They want a prediction. I don't think we're going to do predictions right now, but thank you for the support nonetheless. First orbital launch attempt, sometime this year, maybe, hopefully. That's my prediction.
I'd say May at the earliest.
I'm doing a jack here and say somewhere between now and the end of 2030.
Nice.
Wow, Adrian, you want to get any more specific there?
No, I'm gonna say it this year. This year, Q3. Let's go.
Yeah, fair. Let's go. I'm in on that. Mr. JD Jam, Mr. JDam, thank you for the support. Padrat member, awesome. Here, I'm gonna throw I'll throw a raptor in chat for you. I'll throw 4 raptors. There you go. So that is about it. I mean, so much happened this week. Again, Jared Isaacman flew around Starbase low level with Alpha Jets. Maybe I should revise my highlight from the full stack to that. That was so cool and makes me really wonder what's going to happen there. I hope something cool. I can't see that being coincidental.
Honestly.
I mean, what full stack Starship with the Inspiration 4 folks flying around like, what is going to happen, or I cannot wait to find out. I almost thought we were going to find out on Friday or on Thursday at the event, but
I was half waiting for him to just stroll up on the stage, be like, "Hey, Inspiration 100 now. We have a lot more room. Let's go to the moon."
yeah, right. I mean, he even specifically said he didn't want to steal the thunder of any other announcements. So we'll just have to keep our ears to the ground, and that's another thing to look forward to in the world of Starship. But I'm looking at the list. I'm checking it twice. Yeah, I think that's about it for this week. Do y'all have anything else you wanted to hit before we thank our members there?
I just want to say I'm glad how organized this went. We expected something else when we saw that we three were here.
I have my good boy pants on right now. I'm trying really hard. Hey, one question we get here from let's see, from Jack Beyer is asking how many ears of corn would fit in a. I'll stop. Anyways, that's another episode of NASASpaceflight Live, our weekly live show. Thank you everybody for watching. Ian, thank you for joining us this week.
Great to be here. It's always so much fun.
Adrian, thank you also for joining this week.
Thanks for having me. I love it.
Thank you so much to everybody for watching. Thank you to all of our members. We got our launch directors there on the left. We got our flight engineers there on the right. And cannot emphasize enough how much what we do is impossible without y'all. So thank you so much for the support. It is so meaningful because we get to bring all of this excitement and all of this joy to people around the world about the future. Because who doesn't want to be excited about the future? I certainly do. But with that, Thank you, everybody. Thank you to our members so much. Thank you to all the super chats. Thank you for everyone for just tuning in on a Sunday and talking with us about Starship. Is the Super Bowl a thing right now? Like, do people watch this over the Super Bowl? I'm just realizing.
Later.
Okay. It starts like 7, I think.
Okay, we're good. All right. Anyways, with that, I think we will call it. Tune in next week for some more awesome space news shenanigans. But until then, that's it for this week. Thanks, everybody, for watching. See you later.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
Our chamber pressure looks good. Doubling up.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Body down, feet off. Bring in, feet off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.